What is good, everyone? This is Silver Warrior here, and for once, I'm actually going to be living up to the channel name again and discussing a little bit of silver stacking for you all. But do not worry, I will not be living up to the old style of my videos and rambling on needlessly. Let's get right to the point, which of course is to say that silver stacking, at least in my eyes, is going to be something that might just be extremely important, especially for the average individual like you and me. Well, potentially you. Of course, I don't know you personally. But if you're not in that position, then looking at other metals may be more realistic. But I am here to explain why specifically silver stacking for us, it is going to be, again, in my opinion, of course, because I am not anyone who's a financial expert, and I want to make that completely clear before we get into this, but in my opinion, why silver stacking is going to be such an important thing given our current state, given the current state of the economy, and especially given the potential for a huge inflation that I see coming down the line. So something that I actually cited in one of my recent videos is the fact that in the last 5 years, over $500 billion worth of reserve notes, what we know as cash, have been added to the US dollar circulating supply. And to really put that in perspective, it was only sitting around $1.5 trillion before. Now over $2 trillion. So what that really means to say is that a quarter of the total cash circulating today was added in just the last 5 years. And what does this really mean for you and me? Well, realistically speaking, the US economy is not going to expand fast enough to actually cope for this much cash being added. So therefore, each dollar is going to realistically lose its buying power. Because the economy itself, it's not actually, especially in a state where we're talking about a pandemic, it's really not going to be able to sustain huge growth, especially to counter the fact that we are printing more and more cash to bail ourselves out of the situation. It's really going to create the opportunity for cash to outpace significantly the actual increase in evaluation of our economy itself. And this, of course, leads to a situation where, again, each dollar, because there's more of them simply in existence, it's going to be worth less itself. And what that means is that the amount of money you earned, the amount of money you've saved, what you have in your bank account, just sitting there, even if it's earning interest, unless that interest is somehow higher than what any bank currently provides, it's actually losing value currently. You're losing your buying power just because of the fact that money is losing value itself. And this happens year on year, regardless of whether or not we're in a pandemic, but because of the fact that cash production is being absolutely expedited right now because of the situation, especially as in coming years, the economy really, of course, does not grow enough to actually support all of that cash hitting the system. Again, you're going to see a really huge loss, at least in my opinion, of value in the United States dollar coming in the next few years here, maybe even less, maybe in the next year or so. So where do precious metals really play into this? Because obviously what I just said, all of it sounds real scary, but I'm not really offering a solution there. The thing about precious metals though, and this is going to be obvious, but unlike our current fiat cash system, precious metals cannot be inflated. They can't just be infinitely produced simply because of the fact that there's a limited supply on Earth of the raw materials used to produce silver, gold, platinum, palladium, you name it, it's a finite material, simply put. That is inherently what really makes it valuable in the first place. That, and of course, silver and gold particularly, they're also treasured for their beauty, they're used in electronics, they have other uses as well. But the point is, there's a very limited amount, people want it, and there's a demand for it that creates, of course, value. But what this also means is that there's an actual stable store of value within precious metals because generally speaking, and this has to assume a little bit of accountability on the buyer because you can't buy in a huge bubble and then see precious metals crash in price and be like, oh, well, I actually lost my money, and say that that reflects what precious metals actually do for people. Generally speaking, if you time your purchases well, if you understand the market well enough before you actually put money into it like any reasonable person should, you can see your money actually grow a little bit over time to match or even slightly outpace inflation and therefore serve as a much better store of value than your bank account. To put it simply, if you were to invest in silver right now, let's say at $25.50 an ounce, and then 5 years down the line, you sell it at $31 an ounce, that can actually completely offset all of the damage done by inflation in that amount of time. And it may not be enough to do this for you, especially if you don't time your purchases well. Again, I am not a financial investor. I'm not trying to tell you that silver stacking, precious metal investing, any of it is the end all be all. It's not anything beyond just, to me at least, the most reasonable investment that you can make in your own future and in the preservation of your wealth, because it is the most time tried and true investment that there really is. So why do I title this video Silver Stacking though? Why not call it Precious Metal Investing? Well, when it comes to somebody who, let's say like myself, is not exactly making 100K a year, you're gonna have to deal with things like not being able to spend $1,000 at once. And let's face it, gold, it's not $100 an ounce. It's really sitting close to 1800 right now. I think it's around 1770. Compare that to silver being somewhere around $25 an ounce. And again, you see what I'm really talking about. You can't even buy one whole ounce of gold at a time versus being able to buy several ounces of silver at a time. And this creates a situation where if you try to invest in gold, you're going to have to pay higher premiums simply because of the fact that pieces of gold that are considered to be fractional or under 1 ounce actually cost more per ounce, per gram, per whatever unit they're measured in, than buying a whole ounce would. Let's take a gram of gold for instance, okay? If you were to buy an entire ounce of gold just through 1 gram bars, that may cost you 10, 15, even 20% more than just buying a 1 ounce bar of gold would have in the first place. And this is exactly the same brand. I'm not talking about a specialty variety of 1 gram versus a generic 1 ounce gold bar. I am talking the same brand. You are going to see higher premiums across the board for smaller pieces. So if you want to be able to get the most precious metals possible, preserve the most of your wealth at once, going with silver where you can afford to actually buy whole ounces at a time, that is going to be the smartest option. But with that being said, there is no real need to drag this video out anymore. I mean, again, just like I said last time, I'm not trying to make it so that I hit 8 minutes for the ad revenue because I know it's under 10 now, but no need for any of that. Peace.